we all, when things are going on, when circumstances seem out of control, when we feel overwhelmed, when a lot is happening, and a lot of you have said, like, the book is so fast paced, like just chapter 1 alone, so much happened in that one chapter, which is why I opened it with that, because that was my pivot point. And then I took the reader back through what my childhood, which is exactly what I had to do, like my life from the beginning, right? What's my origin story? I had to go through my origin story all the way through to heal in order to provide safety for my daughter and a stability for my daughter. First of all, did you notice that that's how the book was written? One of my friends, love her, Julie, messaged me this morning. She said, I love your writing style. And I explained to her why I put that first chapter where I did. I opened it with the vision that changed everything, 1992, because it set the stage. But also, that was my pivot point, right? That was my turning point. No longer could I run away from things. I actually had to face them. So the style of the book, you have that first chapter, and then it goes back. And that's literally how it happened in my own life. And what happened was, and take note, has this happened to you? Things happened, you learn to cope, you go through life kind of like a bull charging forward, completely disconnected, because you become really like ensconced and enmeshed in what's happening in your life. And you get caught up in the moment. You get caught up in the events. You get caught up in what you have to do to survive. And you disconnect from yourself. And you lose track of who you are. How many of you know what I'm talking about and recognize that that was a big part of the story in the book as you're reading about my life and I'm going through these events, whether they be supernatural or they be just normal day-to-day life? Did you notice? Like, a lot of what I said in there was like, I had no time to process. I had no time. How many, you did notice, how many of you can relate to that? When stuff's going on, you know, you plow through it, you go into survival mode. That was one of the first things, like, I really want the reader to get. Can you recognize you've done that in your life, where you go into survival mode and then you get stuck there? And in that place, whatever strategy you employed during really stressful events, during trauma, whatever strategies gets locked in. And that's how your unconscious now processes or goes through things. For me, as a young woman and as a child, I just got through. I never stopped long enough. And part of that was a belief system that was like, you can't hit a moving target. I learned that as a kid with my mother. Stand still. You are a sitting duck. This is one of my beliefs I had to clear. Stand still. You're a sitting duck. If you're a moving target, you can't get hit as easily. So keep moving. How many of you have that? And did you recognize that in the book, in my story? And did you relate to that? Did any of you recognize yourself in that? Like, oh my God, so much is happening. You know, I know for me, like, living it, it's like, oh my God, just get through it. The trauma of my daughter was like that. But then being thrust into spiritual initiation that I was not prepared for, again, put me through that, where it was like, just get through. And I was meditating, I was praying, I was studying every day. But then when the next big thing happened, my daughter's molest, my divorce, I went in again, survival mode. Whatever strategies I had developed, boom, kicked right back in. And when we go there, we disconnect. Cartomancy's saying, oh yeah. So what you need to look at, because I didn't write this book for you just to know about me. It's to create some insights into you that will then create breakthroughs and healings for your life. By putting my story out there, that's the hope, right? One of the other things you may notice, if you really think about it, or if you go back and read certain parts, while I was in survival mode, I was also in lack mentality. Do you guys recognize that? I was full-blown lack. Now, I didn't drop into all the time a place of like, I can't do this and nobody let, but there were times in the story in my life that's what happened. Recognize where I've been like that since Charm Life and Everything Happening, my new program, is in this moment. It's okay and everything's working out for my highest good. Yeah. And I love that for you. I totally do. And I mean that in a positive sense. Valkyrie, you know what I'm talking about. I love that for you. All right. So when we're at a young age and we develop these unconscious patterns of survival where we just plow through things, and we're kind of programmed to just plow through things, right? Just survive, just get through it. How many of you, that's what you were taught as a kid in school, in your family? Just get through it. Just get through it. There was never like, slow down. Some of you maybe have been blessed to have been raised that way, where it's like, don't plow through it, slow down and gather yourself. So if you were blessed with that, you are lucky. You are completely lucky. The rest of us that have been through a ton of abuse, or life just had us by, the throat, and we had to endure certain things, we learned how to just get through it. Just grit your teeth and get through it. How many of you are grit your teeth, get through it kind of people? I know I'm not the only one. And then how many of you are just like, I'm going to hide in the closet. I'm not going to face it. There's no wrong or right here. I just want to know, because there's different strategies we come up with. Not 1 minute was not rushed. Grit my teeth and get through it. Yeah, just get through it. There is something to be said for being able to do that when in crisis, right? And not fall apart until after. Many of us, that's how we handle that. I'm not saying there's a wrong or right here. I'm just telling you, you need to be conscious of how you're doing things. Sometimes there's no other option, but I do like to hide. Again, no right or wrong. However, if you go into full unconscious mode like I did for a big part of my life, just plow through and get through it, you end up suppressing, and you end up missing the lesson, and you end up missing the growth, right? If you notice in the story, there's so many times it's like one thing after another after another. And instead of stopping and really taking note of what was happening, and that somehow I could stop the circumstances, I empowered the circumstances. I bought into the circumstances. I expanded on the story, and those patterns just set in. So our job as adults, as we heal ourselves, is to recognize, where are those patterns in me? And I had to do that for myself, right? Right? So we do what we have to do as children. But when you have a child's mind, and you're developing strategies of survival as a child, and you never go back and clear up those strategies, release those behaviors and strategies that allowed you to survive as a child, your ego, so to speak, is holding you hostage and sabotaging your conscious mind. Because a lot more of what affects what's showing up in our lives and how we're interacting and engaging in the world is the unconscious, not the conscious. We know consciously what's going on, and we try to affect our thoughts that way, and we can program our minds, but we also have to dig and find, what is unconsciously running this? What is unconsciously sending vibrations out there? What is unconsciously affecting my emotions and my thoughts? Because that's what drives much of our experience. And I wish I had known that. I wish there were teachings like that when I was young. I mean, I'm grateful that they're out now. And I hope that more young people learn that that is the case, so that they see they have power. But I wanted to see if you guys were aware, and like, did it trigger any of those kinds of insights into your own life, my story, my book, as it went through? Because it was, everyone that's told me it's a fast-paced read from cover to cover. So much happens. It's riveting. I tried to throw it all in there as much as I could to make a complete picture and take you all the way through the arc of the story of the main themes that were going on in my life without telling you what to think. I did not want to tell you through my own telling of the story what to think and what to grab onto. Now that the book is written and it's out there, I can come back and ask you these questions. Did you notice that, and did it make you think about your own life? How many times did you ever, like, when I read a story, and even when I was narrating the audiobook, so much of me wanted to grab that little girl and just say, it's okay. It's okay. You shouldn't have to walk the plank to go to the bathroom by yourself. Whatever your mother's saying to you right now, it's not true. I wanted to do that for that little girl, right? So I know when other people read my story, they may be feeling like that. Me as a child, like, oh, right? Meanwhile, I'm hiding in the back seat, hoping that, she just stops screaming at me. But again, what? Patterning locked in. Just a little event like that should seem like no big deal. Huge deal to me. And it embedded. It totally embedded. Love that in the story. Yeah. My hope isn't that anyone feels bad for me, because so much of my life is healed. So much. And there's always levels of healing that we don't know about. My hope is that you recognize your own wounds in the story. The places where that one hit hard. I still need to clean that up, right? I don't want anyone to be angry at my mother, which is why I didn't go into grave detail about some of the abuse. It was clear and reminded me of how I got stuck. Yeah. My hope is that this story inspires people, really, and that you see these themes, right? Like, even in my marriage to my daughter's father, I was running from abuse of another man. Did you guys recognize that? I was still in shutdown mode. Just get through. Oh my God, save your life. I went through a tubal pregnancy. They're a stalker after getting beat up and having to move to, back to my home state. Like, so much was going on. You think I had a chance to consider? But do you think I had a chance to think about it? No, I just did it and thought, I'll deal with it later. How many young women do you know are in situations like that because they're just plowing through? How sad is that? And that's the hope that my hope is that people recognize that, women recognize that, men recognize that like, oh my God, yeah, life moving at that pace. But you know what? We've been programmed that pace is what we're supposed to live. Now, I'm lucky I made it out good, and I just kept going. I didn't give up, but there were times that I wanted to give up. What I want is for you to recognize the places in you that have holes, that have energy leaks, that are causing you to still sabotage, that are creating doubts within you that are not allowing you to be powerful. Take up your sword. And by that, I mean the sword of truth. What's the truth? Not what's somebody else's truth about you. What's the truth? The absolute truth about you. Just wanted to talk about that a little bit today, because I really want people, if you haven't read it or you're in the process of reading it, or you get done, if you're like me, you finish a story and it takes you a bit to absorb and come out of that world. You guys get to be a part of my inner world. Come out of that world, and I want you to come back to a place where you're journaling it. Like, what part of me resonated? What part of me did that? The unconscious thing. Because I know, like Angela was saying, I just went from one man to another with no break in between. And you know, those men, I don't know if you guys picked up on this. Each one of those men, aside from Robbie, was my mother. I dated and married my mother multiple times. Different face, different name, same energy. Why? Because unconsciously still looking for her love and approval. I wanted a different ending to my origin story with my mother. How many of you know that you've done that in your life too? Young women do it all the time. And if there are any of you out there, that is that's young and you're going through that, because I know plenty of girls, they either go looking for their father love through a man, or go looking for love through their mother, through a man. And we don't think about it that way. It took me a long time to figure out, like, you weren't dating your father, you were dating your mother. You were trying to get that approval. Journaling's a big block for you. Speak it into a phone memo, however you need to do it. The point is to get it out of you. Or talk to someone that can hold sacred space for you, cartomancy. If you have a journaling block, just talk to someone that can hold sacred space for you. It's a powerful thing. Where can you purchase the book? The name of the book is The Crooked Path to a Charmed Life, Clairvoyant Medium's Journey to Embracing Her Spiritual Gifts. You can either get it on my website, which on my website, the audio version is available now, bernadettegold.com/book. Or you can just go to Amazon. They have the ebook, they have the paperback. They do not have the audio. The audio is only available on Chirp and a few other sites right now. I so totally did that, trying to find the love and attention over and over again. That is why we have so many broken relationships in this world. We're looking to heal and fill a void in another. Like, let me extract it from you. We want a different ending to our story, our origin story, which is why I did that with my book when I told my story. I didn't even consciously do that. It's just the way that it unfolded as I sat down to write was, let's go through the origin story, because that's what it took for me to heal. And I wasn't even willing to do it until my daughter needed healing and my daughter needed stability. When my daughter was hurt, then I stopped and took the time to heal. Then it was important to me. Unfortunately, it isn't until something happens with our children as women, a lot of times, that we stop and we go, oh, this stops with me. I can't let this go on. I can't have her choose the same way. I can't, right? It was important for me. But it took years for me to recognize that every guy that I was with was my mother, just a different face and a different name. Some of my friends, too, that I brought around me, some of my bosses. Oh, my God. The woman in the mental hospital. You guys read about that, right? Those of you who read it. The woman in the mental hospital, the Asian woman on the bed next to me that was responsible for me going into solitary confinement. My mother. Everywhere I turned, there were messages from the universe. You have to heal your issues with your mother. But back in the 80s, mental health really wasn't supported and spoken about. They didn't know the things we know now. We've evolved. And the spiritual foundation stuff wasn't there like it is now. I mean, you guys get to watch me on Facebook or YouTube, and there's articles all over the place, accessible from anywhere in your pocket. We didn't have that back in the 80s. You know, someone asked me, like, when you put your story out there, it's so raw, it's so personal. Were you afraid that people were going to, like, judge you? Absolutely, I was. But then I thought, it doesn't matter. For all the judgment that comes at me for sharing my true journey, the truth of my life, there are so many more people that are empowered by it, that see, like, oh, I got something to heal. I don't want these patterns anymore of pushing through and pushing through and pushing through and ignoring my own needs, right? How many of you empaths and sensitives give, make everybody else happy, right? Narcissistic behavior. Yes, Deborah, and I talk about that in the book. I even outline the DSM-V manual. What is a narcissist? So that's in the book as well. But good catch. Yeah. So yeah, we need to be aware. So I hope as you're reading, and I hope as we go along having these discussions, because I want to keep this discussion open, right? Like, what are you learning about yourself? I'm so into helping people empower themselves, however it needs to happen, whether it's from reading my book or another book or these videos that I do. I just want to help you go to the next step. Be kind to yourself. We are evolving in a big way right now. The energy is expanding right now. So it's timely to be having this discussion, right? This is a time where we have to face our wounds and heal them. Not only heal them, transcend them. Transmute that energy of pain and suffering throughout our previous experiences, but allow it to strengthen us and the core of who we are. Your healing from narcissistic abuse is intense, but it's necessary, and it does not have to take forever. Just got to remember who you are. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day.